Hello and welcome back to Faith and Fiction Chat. This is the live series where some of our favorite Christian authors join me, the Introverted Bibliophile, to talk about their latest books and how their faith inspires every page they write. I am your host, Angie Ochoa, and I'm so glad that you've tuned in. Today, I'm chatting with Christian author Sarah Monzon, author of 20 Christian romance novels, including her most recent series, Checking Out Love, which includes, and I have them, An Overdue Match, Hearts in Circulation, and her brand new book, Bookmarked For Love, which releases Tuesday. Is a military spouse living in Western Washington State with her husband and two kids. Hello, Sarah. Welcome.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
Doing all right. I hear part of your state is burning.
And yeah, that's pretty normal for summer.
Right. I feel like that is such a norm for the Western states these days. It's like, yeah, California too. So I get it. Um, Thank you so much for coming on to chat with me today. I'm so excited. And let's talk about your giveaway real quick. You are giving away a copy of your brand new book, which releases on July 21st.
Right.
And it is called Bookmarked for Love. And as a plus size book lover, I am so excited about this one. So I cannot wait to read it. If you have not entered to win Sarah's book, be sure and go back to Tuesday's post where you see Sarah's beautiful face and enter to win the giveaway, because the giveaway ends tomorrow and you don't want to miss out on this. All right. So, Sarah, tell us a little bit about your family.
So my husband is a chaplain in the Navy. Sorry. So we move a lot. I've got a 14-year-old boy and a 12-year-old girl. And that is our family.
Okay. Any pets?
Oh, yes. We have one dog.
Okay. Okay. I get the moving around because my dad was in the Air Force. And so I actually started my life in Western Washington at Tacoma. So
JBLM.
I was born at Madigan General Hospital in Fort Lewis. So yeah, we moved around a lot too. So what do you guys love to do as a family?
Um, well, now that my kids are like teens and tweens, they kind of just want to hibernate in their room.
I
Um,
understand.
yeah, but we always have family dinners together and things like that, and then obviously support what their interests are. So, like, my daughter is in a summer junior production at the local playhouse, so we're supporting her that, and my son is volunteering at the Naval Air Museum for the summer. So.
Wow. Very cool. I have a 16-year-old daughter who also does theater. So we have a little bit in common. I have a 12-year-old son who's very involved in jujitsu right now. And then my 19-year-old is kind of trying to figure out what he wants to do with his life. So I get
Yeah.
the hibernation though, because that happens. It's like, really? Can you just come out of your room and spend some time with us for like an hour? Yeah. So what does your family think about your writing?
Um, they think that it's cool, I guess. My daughter has just recently like really started getting into reading, probably like the last 6 months, but she's 12, so she doesn't really have any interests in my books with adults right now. She likes more fantasy and high school, YA things, which is perfectly fine. That's her age group. So she thinks that she has friends who read my books though, and that's so she's like, oh, I guess my friend Caitlin, she loves your books. Let's give her your new one. And I'm like, okay, well.
Okay. Well, that's kind of cool that she sees that and she's like, yeah, this is my mom. So when did you start your writing?
Well, my first book was published in 2015, but I've always just been really into books and stories and writing and things like that.
Have you always thought that you would publish books that you would write to publish?
No, I definitely had the knowledge of starving artists, so it's just totally true. So
I'm
I
sure.
was like, I went to school for elementary education, and for teaching, and did that for a little bit, not for very long, mostly because I married and then he had to go to seminary, so we had to move and different licensing for different states and things like that. But uh, no, I didn't think that I would publish for that writing would be that until I don't know. I don't know until probably my son was born and I needed something that was more like for me instead of just like everything was mom type of thing. And so I would write for a bit of my own sanity. And once the book was finished and I had edited it, and I was like, oh, well, now what should I do with it?
Yeah, I understand that needing to do something for ourselves because it's so easy to get into that trap of I'm mom and this identifies my entire life and now what, you know?
Yeah.
And
He
I
was a
I think
very, very needy child too. So it
oh
was like
yeah,
taking up all of my time and energy.
yeah. And that can be hard. I mean, especially as a first time mom, and not understanding like wait, what's happening? What's going on here? I totally get that. Um So tell me about your faith journey. When did your relationship with Jesus begin?
Um, I don't think I could ever pinpoint a time and be like, this was the date of my conversion or anything like that. I grew up going to church, grew up in faith, grew up in all of that. So it's just always been a part of my life. Um, even like even to the point that sometimes in the past I've been like, well, I don't really have a testimony, because like you hear these testimonies in church about I used to be a drug addict and God saved me and like all this powerful. And I was like, well, I've been the good girl all my life, So like you don't have that what you think of as like a powerful testimony of Jesus saving you from the depths of darkness or something. So there's not been like a pivotal moment. It's just God's always been there, been a part, been my father type of thing.
And that's okay too, because he does use everybody's testimony no matter where we're at. Because imagine if you were talking to somebody who grew up in church and did everything right, and realized that they needed a savior and got saved and that was it, and they'd be like, well, I feel like I should have some big grand testimony, but we all have different places where we came from and we all have different walks. And so um, being able to share and relate to someone that actually doesn't have that big grand testimony is okay too, right?
Mhm.
I mean, it would be hard for someone who grew up in church and was a good girl or a good guy or whatever to relate to the person who was a drug addict and an alcoholic and had a mouth of a sailor and that kind of thing. So I love how God uses each one of us in our journey where we're at to be able to reach others. So um how do you feel that your faith shapes your storytelling?
Well, I would definitely say that because my worldview it comes from a Christian perspective, then that's definitely going to influence the world that I am creating. As far as like Christian content, it definitely varies per book. Like I know there are some books that I've written like in the past in my backlist and stuff that would I would say are like very Christian heavy. And then there are some others that are a lot lighter faith and more subtle in the faith threads. And it's not like I'm doing any of that consciously, or like I'm before I sit down to write, I'm like, oh, I want faith heavy or anything like that. It's more organic to the characters and their story, where they are in their journey. Because like you were saying, everybody is in different spots in their journey, and that goes for fictional characters as well, I think.
Yeah.
So there could be somebody who's struggling with something, like identity or things like that, that can have a more faith forward message. And then there are others that maybe they're in a more confident faith relationship at the moment, and so that's not what they're dealing with. Um, and also, I think more recently, I've kind of been thinking about like the message of like like what ministry is and who we're ministering to and things like that. Like my husband, he was a pastor before he was a chaplain. And so his ministry obviously was to church people. And that it looks completely different to what his ministry now is to sailors.
Yeah.
Um, and so they're both ministry. He just approaches it differently. And so I think there are definitely books of mine that I'd be like, okay, yeah, these are definitely probably more for church people. Um, and some that maybe it's more, I would still definitely call them Christian, although some people have said that they aren't. But because it's more like loving your neighbor, like, and who is
Right.
your neighbor is just people who, just everybody is your
Yeah.
neighbor. But
Yeah.
more specifically, I've been putting a lot more of like representations in my books. And so loving your neighbor is recognizing people have other struggles and having, and kind of growing that empathy, which may not be like a lot of prayer on the page or a lot of Bible verses on the page, but is still God's message of love.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that too, because, you know, especially with repping, whether it's a disability or whether it's a lack of confidence in the body that you're in, you've addressed these things so well. And it's so encouraging to see that, because um, there are times when I have read a book, like I just finished a book the other day that just hit me so hard, right in the place where we're at right now as a family. And so just to be able to read that, you know, I feel like God's timing is always perfect, right? And I needed to hear that, because there were things in the book where they were having a hard time trusting in God's methods and the way that he was bringing about his plan. And I'm in that place too. My husband and I both are. So to be able to read something at the right time is so perfect. And being able, I'm sure that there's probably women out there who have read your books. You know, I have these two, and I don't have Bookmarked for Love yet, but I'm getting it. Obviously it releases on the 21st, but I love that there are authors who will do something like this, where you are putting something into a book that people can relate to. And it's not just, you know, because I grew up, and this is going to date me, but I grew up reading Grace Livingston Hill and Jeanette Oke, you know. So like those were my mom's books, and those were the books that started me on Christian fiction. And so those were, to me at that time, highly unrelatable. And I would have loved to have had a book like one of these, or like the Cinderella plot from Pepper Basham when I was a teenager. You know, I would have loved to have had something that I relate to. So thank you for including characters like Evangeline and Haley and Martha. I think that's just amazing. Um, so Bookmarked in Love, these are part of the Checking Out Love series, and I'm curious to know what inspired you to write them, and was there a specific real life situation that influenced you?
Oh yeah. So The idea first started with An Overdue Match with Evangeline's story, because I have been wanting to write a character with alopecia for a while. My mom has alopecia. She is completely bald, has no hair on her. She has alopecia, totalis. So she has it. She has
Right.
a little eyelashes, and that's pretty much about it.
Yeah.
No eyebrows, no hair. Anyway, so I've been really wanting to write a character with alopecia for a while for her. When Barbie came out with their line of like representation of different Barbies, and there's a bald Barbie, she got really excited.
Aw.
She's like a 55, well, she's 56 right now, so that was a few years ago. It was like 50-year-old woman, and she's like buying all the bald Barbies for all of her grandkids. Like,
Aw.
it's great. It's just really important, I think, that people be able to see themselves as the main character in different stories. Like, representation is just really important.
Yeah.
Um, so it started with one book, just Evangeline, and the story with that. And so when my agent pitched the book to Bethany House, they asked me, can we turn this into a series and have a few more books about librarians? And I was like, oh, sure, I could do more books about books. That's fine.
Yeah.
So then I was like, well, I just started thinking about different aspects of librarians and different things that they did. So then I wanted to highlight different types of librarians. So then the bookmobile came about, and then the children's librarian, which is Martha, to highlight different aspects of librarians.
Yeah, I love that. So is there a librarian in your family, or is it just because you love books?
I just love books and I love libraries. I mean, when my kids were little, we would go at least once a week. I mean, we would
Yeah.
go for it was pretty much like, okay, we need to get out of the house, let's go to the library. Like,
Yes.
because they
Yeah.
always had programs during the summertime. We were like I remember the electrical company came and they did a thing about electricity, and the animal rescue people came and they brought an owl and reptiles, and just they had like Lego time, and I was always bringing my kids to the library for different things. So I love libraries.
Yeah,
Um, and so yeah, it was not difficult to set a series based on librarians. It was
that's
fun.
awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I've always loved libraries. I can remember going to the base library when I was a little girl, and they would have their reading contests and things like that. And I, I love our libraries in our area. We take our kids pretty frequently. And so, yeah, libraries are amazing. So, in this series, which character or characters do you feel were the hardest to write and why?
The hardest. I don't know. Haley was a little bit difficult. She's super energetic and bubbly, and I'm really not that energetic and bubbly. She also is a an organ transplant. She has an organ has an organ, and so I had to do a lot of research about that because I don't have any personal experience there. It was interesting to learn though. So maybe Haley might have been a. I don't think any of them were too difficult.
You had mentioned in our previous communication that the dad of, is it the
Mm.
male main character for
Yeah,
Bookmarked For Love?
Julian's dad. Yeah,
Okay.
forgot about him.
So tell me about him.
Julian's dad. I mean, he's he's in a hard place in life. He really needs to retire and really doesn't want to.
Mm,
So he's really holding on and not wanting to take that next chapter, like the sunset years. So he's
sure.
fighting against it, which sometimes comes out unkindly
Aw,
because he's having his own personal struggles. So it's really easy to judge him based off of his actions, but in the heart of it, he's just having a hard time getting older.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. My husband was forced to retire last summer, and he's really struggling with it because inherently the man is the provider of the home. The husband, the father, is the provider. And if all of his life has been one thing, like my husband was with his job for almost 35 years, then it's like, but now what do I do with myself? And he's struggling because he has a lot of chronic pain and issues with his hands and stuff. And so he's like, I need to be needed. I need to feel useful. And so I can understand that struggle that this character's got. It's a real thing. It's a real struggle. So I wanted to find out if you have a certain scripture or biblical truth that anchors these stories in this current series.
Not in the series as a whole. Um, I should have written these down. Evangeline and Haley definitely do. Evangeline's journey is definitely with self-image, and listening to God's voice about her worth and not other people's. Um, and so she has a big journey there. And then Haley's is basically not, you can't earn a free gift.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, with Martha, it's more about looking for signals that come your way through life, sometimes in the quieter moments, but they're not always like God's voice is not always in it. Like they looked for him in the thunder, and it wasn't in the thunder, and they looked for him, and it wasn't. It's still a small voice. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
I
each
like
story,
that.
I'd say each story has a little bit of their own, but as an overarching series one, probably not so much. Maybe just like God is the author and finisher, because everything's about story and in that
Yeah.
series.
That's really good. I really appreciate how you have portrayed each of these characters and just showing, like, you had said something, like I said in our previous communication, about just seeing the fingerprints of God, and I think that being able to see his faithfulness in our own lives, but also throughout scripture, is so important. And just seeing all the little places where he's been and how he's been faithful in even the smallest things is pretty amazing. Okay. Why do you think romance is such a powerful vehicle for faith-based storytelling?
Mm. Uh, because the Bible has a lot of imagery about God and his church in a romantic way setting. I mean, it talks about the bridegroom
Yeah.
and the bride, and about pursuing uh, his loved ones. I mean, God and Jesus is like the ultimate he falls first trope.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it's very and we have a need to be loved,
Yeah.
um, and so it's just a perfect, I think, avenue to reflect God's love in that way in a romance.
Yeah. And it can be done in such a cringy way, in some of the more open door romances that we see. And so, I feel like that's such a picture of how maybe even, just a secular worldview is this open door romance where, a biblical worldview can really showcase um, the beauty of what's supposed to transpire between a husband and a wife, in a marriage, and how it can be a picture of how Christ loves the church. And so I see that like in my own husband. I see the way that he cares for us, the way that he seeks to protect us, and the way that he's always pointing us to Christ. I feel like that's such a good picture of who God is. And that can be incredibly romantic, when you know that you have someone that is caring for you in this way. Um, so you had talked about tropes. What
Mhm.
is your favorite trope to write?
Um, I don't know if I have a favorite trope to write. I've written quite a bit of forced proximity a few like over the last few books because it just is just a great way to put the characters together in kind of a pressure pot situation and uh, gets them to learn about each other rather quickly because you have to. It's forced.
Yeah, yeah, you kind of have to. You don't have a choice.
Yeah, but Uh, I don't think I have a favorite. I like to just kind of go through them to keep everything fresh and fun and not stagnant or anything like that.
Okay. So do you write then with a trope in mind, or you just write and let it come as it's going to?
Yeah, sometimes it depends. Um, yeah, sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Okay. Okay. That's good. Now, I'm curious to know, do you have any works in progress?
Yes. So, two works in progress right now. One is the Tulip Proposal, which comes out April for 2027. So it is in the editorial process currently. And then I am writing the first draft of the second book in that series.
Okay. And I've seen the cover of that. It's so pretty. I love it. I can't wait for that one to come out as well. I have to ask, and I'm going to just backtrack a little bit to some of our previous conversation, but uh, I've talked about this with some of the other authors that I've had on, and I wanted to know from you, is it hard for you to write male characters from the female perspective, the female brain?
Um, I don't know, but I don't know if I'm getting them right because it's from my brain. I mean, a lot of times I'll be like, what would my husband do in this situation? And then just write that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's one thing that I've discovered. My husband and I have such different ways of thinking and seeing things. And I can be going, like, we can be in a car ride and I can be passing a sign and I'll see something, and then that leads to another thought, which leads to another thought, which leads to another thought, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I have this random question or comment for him, and he's like, where did that come from? And it's like, that's the way my brain works. I'm so sorry. And it reminds me of that book from back in the day. I don't remember when exactly it's from, but it's called uh Men Are Like Waffles, Women Are Like Spaghetti. And it's kind of like we're all over the place. We can be thinking about 17 different things at once and know where we're at, where a guy has to be like, okay, I got to get out of my work compartment to get into my family compartment. Got to get out of my family compartment to get into my hobby, compartment or whatever. And it's just like, I've had to learn over the years that I need to like put on the brakes and go, okay, I'm switching subjects now. So it's kind of fun to see um, different male characters written. And I've always wondered, like, how does a female write a male? Because we'll think about that too in the shows that we watch. Because a guy will say something and I'll be like, pretty sure that was a female writer, or vice versa, because it's like that is not something a guy would say,
Yeah.
so that's really fun. Okay.
Personalities have a bit to play into that too. So like if he's grumpy, he's gonna be a lot less talkative or
Yeah,
whatever. If it's flirty, then that's gonna come off a different way as well. So
yeah,
just keeping in mind different personalities and backgrounds, like
yeah,
what the backstory is. If they were raised in an abusive home, they're obviously going to act differently as well. So like all these things play into who the character is.
Right, exactly. I love when an author can create a really good backstory within a short amount of time, and you can kind of really see into that character's like personality and mind and that kind of thing. So when that's well done, it's really well done. Okay, so how can people connect with you and where can they get their hands on Bookmarked for Love?
So I'm on Instagram, so you connect here. You can sign up for my newsletter. You can sign up on my website, sarahmonzonwrites.com. And then I only send those out like once a month, once every other month, once a quarter, whenever. I'm not the greatest at sending them out, but you're not going to get spammed. I can tell you that. But that's the best place to see like cover reveals and news and things like that. Bookmark for Love. Someone did snap a picture and show me from their local bookstore. So apparently it's in some bookstores now. The best place would be to pre-order it at Baker Bookhouse. You get 40% off, free shipping. And if there's any pre-order swag left, then there's some swag as well.
Okay. Yeah, I had seen that somebody had taken a picture of it in the store, and I was like, wait, that doesn't release yet. That's
Yeah,
not
I was
out
really
yet. How did they
that.
get that? So I'm super excited to get that. Okay, I have some just for fun questions.
Okay.
So, first of all, first question, what is your favorite genre to read?
Romance.
Romance, of course. Okay. And are you reading a book now? If so, what is it?
I just started Dolly All the Time last night by Annabelle Monaghan. She's not a Christian author, so there's sometimes like a little bit of spice near the end, but it's not like explicit. Well, her past books I've read haven't been that explicit. So
Okay.
anyway, so yes, that's when I started last night. Oh, I'm also listening to Seven Colors of the Sky by Rachel McComb.
Okay.
It's Enclave, so it's a fantasy, an Enclave publication.
Okay.
Nice.
That was going to be my next question was, do you read or listen to multiple books at one time?
Yes, I have a book on my Kindle and an audiobook going usually all the same time.
Yep. Same here. And sometimes I'm reading a book aloud to my kids, but that's usually more
Yeah,
during the school year.
no,
So,
I'm also doing that.
okay.
3 books at a time.
And we can keep track of it because our minds are like spaghetti, right? Okay. If you could learn any new skill, what would it be?
Hmm, a new skill. Maybe art. I'm really bad at art, like drawing, painting, anything like that. Atrocious.
Which medium do you think you'd want to learn?
I mean, I would be happy to be passable at just one of them. My daughter is she's really good at it. So, like, I think that's why I thought of it the first thing, something that we could do together. Because
Sure.
she's great and I'm not.
Aw, that would be fun though. That would be fun. Okay, favorite place to go on vacation?
So, we don't usually go to the same place twice. We do a lot of like staycations since we move all the time. I like to just kind of learn about take advantage of our new location and just kind of stay within a little area and then we move and then we do that over there and then we move and we do so I
That's
mean I'd love
fun.
to go to like Europe or something, but we do not have the money for that.
Oh, I get that. Yeah. We live in an area where lots of people take their families to Europe or to Asia or wherever for vacations, and we're like, yeah, we're gonna go get a hotel room for a night and go to the beach. And that's it. Like that's our vacation. So, okay, last question. What is your favorite guilty pleasure? Could be anything. Could be a TV show, could be a food,
Yeah.
anything.
Sweets, chocolate,
Okay,
yeah.
chocolate. What is your favorite form of chocolate? Like what is your favorite way?
Okay, so the best chocolate I've ever had is Icelandic chocolate. I enjoy
Oh,
Iceland, but one of my husband's work trips, because he goes all over the place visiting sailors, he was in Iceland and he brought back Icelandic chocolate, and it's the best chocolate I've had so far.
Ah, I wonder where we can get that because I'm always up for a good piece of chocolate. So there's a place in Carmel, California called Pieces of Heaven. They have some of the best chocolate I have ever had. They hand make most of their chocolate, and it is so, so good. It's nothing like any of the stuff that you can buy at the grocery store. Oh, it is truly heaven. So good chocolate is always, always fun. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time out to chat with me today. It has been such a joy to get to know you better.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you to all of you who joined in or will be watching this interview later. Don't forget to go and enter to win a copy of Bookmarked for Love, and be sure to follow Sarah so that you can see when her next book comes out or when she's revealing another cover. But yeah, give her a follow and make sure that you are following me so that you don't miss any upcoming future faith and fiction chats. The next author that I'm going to be chatting with is Jennifer Dybel, and I'm so excited for that. I also have a YouTube channel where these interviews will be uploaded, and that is Angie, the Introverted Bibliophile. So it's a little different from my Instagram. And I would love it if you could go to that channel and like and subscribe. Thank you again, Sarah, and I hope you have an amazing weekend, and I hope that your release day is everything that you dream of.
Thank you so much. Bye.
All righty, bye.